Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Primrose Nanchani Manyalo, and I will be your moderator today. I'm a Global Campaigns and Networks Manager at Restless Development, and I work from Zimbabwe. I welcome you to the third episode of the Say It Louder webinar series. This webinar series is part of the Let's Talk campaign, a regional initiative that aims to reduce early and unintended pregnancy in the East and Southern Africa region, with support from our partners UNESCO, SAFAIDS, UNFPA, and Save the Children Sweden, as well as from governments and many other partners and organizations across the region. The Say It Louder webinar series was born out of the recognition of the devastating effects that the COVID-19 global pandemic is having on the lives of adolescent girls and young women worldwide. A panel of experts and young people from various countries in the region will be sharing their perspectives on how to address increases in gender-based violence during the pandemic. So it's my pleasure today to introduce you to our speakers that have joined us today. We have Elisha David, who's a program manager at Watersawa Domestic Workers Organization in Tanzania. We also have Catherine Madebe, a programs lead at Mulika in Tanzania. We have Angela Nakafero. She's the Commissioner Gender and Women Affairs for Uganda. We also have, last but not least, Remy Shower. Remy Shower is the Regional Officer in Education for Health and Well-being in UNESCO Regional Office for Southern Africa. Welcome our speakers, and I also welcome you, our participants who have joined us today. Please do type in the chat box, letting us know where you're tuning in from. Tell us your name, your organization, what you do, and your country, so that we also just get to know each other. Use the chat facility to do that. I also have a couple of instructions to guide us to kickstart our webinar. So please do take note of the following. Firstly, the session will be structured as a discussion. We'll have panelists and young people, and as well as using some audio testimonials or short stories as conversation starters. Secondly, we have the question and answer session that will happen at the end of our session, which will give you guys a chance to also ask questions, maybe triggered from the conversations that will come in. But also, if you have any burning questions for any of our speakers, please use the Q&A function to actually share your questions. And also, I would like you to specify who you're directing that question to amongst our multiple speakers we have today. We also are streaming this live on YouTube, so you can also just place your questions at any time within the comment function. We also invite you to connect with your networks, to connect with the world using our hashtags. So please do tweet about this webinar. Use the following hashtags either on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Hashtag Say It Louder and hashtag Let's Talk EUP throughout the session. And then finally, a key point to note is that this session will be recorded. So please do sit back and relax. We'll kick off with a jingle called Say It Loud that will be played to open up the conversation for us.
Say it loud.
Look at her. My corona.
Take off our clothes.
Of course.
Thank you for that. So stepping in right into the heat of the conversation, we will start off with you, Remy. Maybe you can open up the conversation for us with the following question and responding to the following question. What are the aspects of the COVID-19 pandemic which have contributed towards an increase in gender-based violence? Over to you, Remy.
Thank you so much, Primrose, and thanks, colleagues, for having me on this webinar. It's really nice. Greetings from Johannesburg. So, you know, the aspects of COVID-19 that have impacted on GBV or intensified the problem, we already know that GBV is a very big problem, especially in our region, even without COVID-19. Intimate partner violence, for instance, the culture of rape in most communities. But what COVID-19 did is that around the time that, you know, we had first cases and then governments were beginning to respond in different ways, most of them took the approach of hard lockdowns. You know, closure of schools, closure of public services, etc., and people were now confined in their homes. But what we also saw is that during this time, because there are so many dynamics in the relationships in the home environment, cases of violence then tended to increase. So whether it's direct violence against a young person, you know, a learner who's no longer in school, or them just observing the violence happening in the home, that was one aspect as well. So the COVID-19 lockdown. The other one also is around the impact of COVID-19, you know, on the social and economic well-being of different individuals, the impact that that has on access to welfare, access to opportunities, income, etc. And that's also an element of violence, with a lot of women being most vulnerable. So abuse in relationships, economic abuse, psychological abuse. And also to mention that violence is not only physical, because obviously most of the times when we talk about GBV, we quickly think about, you know, physical wife battering or rape, but it is also emotional. It is psychological as well, it is economic as well. So those are the things that we began to say. And also because the approach to the COVID response was mainly the public health element. So let us protect people from infections, let's protect them, let's stop the infections from spreading without factoring the economic and the psychological well-being. What does that have? What impact does it have on the wellness of the person who's locked up with a person that they are not in a good relationship with? So we saw, for instance, in South Africa, cases of women being killed in the home. Just in our neighborhood, there was a case of one man that killed his partner and killed himself. And these are some of the repercussions that we saw from the COVID-19.
Thank you very much, Remy. He pretty much reiterated issues happening here in Zimbabwe as well. You know, there's this adage that says the quagmire of a cigarette, it's on one end, someone is also biting it. On the other end, it's burning. This is the case we have. Thank you, Remy, for those great insights. I'll move on to you, Catherine. I have a question for you as well. And my question is, how have young people in particular been impacted by gender-based violence during the pandemic? I want you to zero in on young people and tell me the impact that gender-based violence has had during the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Primrose, and everyone for this opportunity to share my view on the impact of COVID-19 in relation to GBV, to specifically young people. First of all, I must agree with my fellow Lemi, as he first said, GBV has been an agenda in Africa. In most of African countries, we have been trying to fight this since before the coming of COVID-19. And to make our efforts more lagging behind when COVID-19 came and chipped in, tried to take over all of our efforts. So I must say, COVID has brought a diverse of negative impacts to young people, especially when you look on the young people. This group has diverse of effects when it comes to issue of sexuality, when it comes to issue of GBV in particular, and other issues of SRHR. So to young people, first I must say, when we are trying to look on this, on our generation as young people, on how have we been impacted by GBV, first, we look at the efforts that we have been trying to do. They have been lagging behind. The preventive and protective efforts that have been putting forward by the efforts of young people, by ourselves and other initiatives, have been lagging behind because of the COVID-19. As you know, when COVID came in, the young people we were in the lockdown, yes? So we were locked down in our houses with our abusers. So you can imagine, because at first, before the COVID-19, we had that tendency of going somewhere to seek help or anywhere where we can, trying to reach for any assistance. But after the COVID-19 came in, now we can see the impact on young people has risen. The early marriages has risen. When you go to look on the rate of the rape has risen. Everything has risen in the umbrella of GBV, the FGM. It was just few weeks ago when I was trying to get some insight and hear some news stories came from the young people itself who have been affected with GBV. I came across with this young lady from Masai region. In Tanzania I have Masai. Most of people know Masai. They are not well, must say, civilized. They still live in the aspects of culture and all that. They are masculine and all that. So this young lady of 12 years old was forced to get married during the COVID-19. And why? Because the only place where she could escape that, it was going to school. So she has to justify herself before coming the COVID-19, but I cannot get married. So telling her father, I cannot get married, I cannot have any child, I cannot have anything because I have to go to school and fulfill my dreams. So when COVID came in, it's like it gave power to the perpetrator of GBV to hold on the young people, especially young girls and young women. So after that, the girl, she was forced to get married because she's staying at home. No one can fight for her and everything like that. She has to get married. Yet when she gets to her husband, what she did, the thing I like about this girl, she was very strong. She had to deny her husband when it came to sex and all the things. So the husband was beating her up again. So there we can experience the level of GBV. Maybe it was supposed to be an early marriage, but later on it goes to physical violence now because the husband now has to beat on the wife because she couldn't give her sex and everything like that. Later on, the girl has to escape from her husband. I'm just trying to give the source you can see what we are dealing with in our community, just an example. So the girl has to escape again. When she escapes, she goes back home. Her father tells her, no, you have to go back to your husband because you are married and stuff like that. She went to the bush. She was almost attacked by a hyena. So my call here is this. When we are talking about the impact of COVID-19 in relation to GBV, it's like we are fighting the hyena. We are fighting the hyena who is trying to take on our rights, young people's rights, young people freedom, young people equal access to everything, whether it's education, whether it's social services, or whether it's anything concerning their, health and dignity and all that. So here is a quick snapshot. What I wanted to do is bring a live conversation, live stories that we really live in our communities and see how young people are being affected. That is just an example of just one girl. Imagine how many girls are we having in the remote areas having the same situations? How many girls have not been able to fight the hyena and being attacked by it and being killed? So I must say the impacts are very rigid and are very bad to young people, and we are still working on that because some of them, you can see when right now in Tanzania trying to track down the level of the rate of girls who came back after COVID-19, you might see there is a higher level of truancy and dropouts. And if you're trying to trace where are these girls married, pregnant. And here in Tanzania, we have a policy. If you're pregnant, you're not supposed to go back to school ever again. So it's chaos. And I must say, COVID has never been any good in general, not only to the case of GBV, but in everything, in every sphere of life. If you see young women who at least have started some economic activities, they couldn't do it because of the COVID-19, so they have to stay back. As I said, they're being locked down with their abusers. So everything has been a chaos. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much. I would also like to welcome Nyaradai Gumbunjanda, who has joined in as well. Nyaradai will come back to you just shortly. But right now, I will come to you, Angela. I have a question for you. Are there actions being taken at the government level to reach and provide services to women and girls affected by gender-based violence during this time? Angela. Your microphone is on mute. If you're happy to click unmute.
Apologies.
That's okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Primrose. I would want to thank Catherine and Remy for really highlighting the issues around unintended and early child pregnancy and marriage. Really, COVID has affected all of us in fundamental ways, including government, the delivery of services, because in our case in Uganda, there was that discussion around essential and non-essential services. And of course, those that were considered non-essential were locked down. And that's why you find aspects like psychosocial support, GBV reporting, and of course that affected significantly in terms of escalating GBV and also reducing the impact in terms of the extent to which the perpetrators could be tracked down. But of course, the dynamics are really very, very challenging. What are some of the services? In our case, there are quite a number of services by the government of Uganda and other stakeholders. First and foremost, during the lockdown, the Sauti, which is the Uganda Child Helpline, which is an online service for reporting and responding to cases of GBV, was not locked down, and that helped us a lot. And this is a service where children, men and women could call in and report cases, and along the way, they could be able to access online psychosocial support, online referrals for services, especially those that were open. The health sector remained open, but the education sector was closed down. So that somehow affected us. In addition to the online reporting, there are also packages, online services like legal aid. So once the case is reported through the online services, then arrangements are made to refer to the police for investigations, to the courts of law for hearing. And of course, there were also efforts to organize special court sessions to attend to some of these cases. One of the services that was really found very, very important during COVID was the access to food. Government of Uganda tried its very best in terms of distributing food, and the victims and survivors of GBV were given special consideration. So that somehow helped in terms of ensuring that people don't die in their houses because of hunger, but they were able to access some little food that was able to take them through. Other services were around online delivery of education. For instance, sexuality education is one of the package that was delivered during COVID lockdown, but also trying to give people a voice, spaces for them to really amplify their voices. There was a lot of use in terms of media, TVs and radio that provided space for young people, for women and men, people with disability to talk about some of these issues. And really it's against this kind of background that government of Uganda along the way during the lockdown was able to prioritize gender-based violence as a major challenge during the lockdown, but also in terms of opening up the services to ensure that people can access and be able to be supported with support services. Of course, there were still gaps because much more depended on the capacity of an individual or a survivor of GBV to report, to take use of the services. And quite often, most of the cases of GBV are never reported. So it's not surprising that we are registering increasing cases of GBV. We've also registered increased cases of defilement, and most of these have led into teenage pregnancy. There were also cases of child marriage that have been reported through the systems. And of course, some of these are being handled at the respective levels. So really, those are some of the services: legal services, medical services, education, depending on the online packages available, but also in terms of psychosocial support to the survivors of gender-based violence.
Thank you, Angela, for your response. Let me come to you, Elisha. How can parents, community members, and leaders support victims of gender-based violence to report incidences or access to services? You heard what Angela said with regards to some cases going unreported. How do we bridge this gap to support victims to report incidences or access to services? Elisha.
Thank you so much, Primson, for this great opportunity, and all the guest speakers who have been talking about various topics. Yeah, let me go direct to the topics. What can parents do to help the victim or to report the incidents of the victim of GBV? We are aware that we are in the era of challenges. Most of the parents are the one who, in one way or another, find that they see the child being abused. Maybe you can find the child being abused by the uncle or the closer relatives, maybe being left by someone at the family level, but it's not reported because of the family relationship and all things about that. So what we need to do for the parents, first of all, we need to train about parenting skills. They need to train about parenting skills. Parents need to be informed the light of children. They need to be informed about the negative impact of gender-based violence, because the repercussion of gender-based violence to the person normally remain as a scar to the body of somebody, or remain as a scar to the heart. Is a reminder. So what you need to do is to encourage the parents not to be silenced, to be bold enough to take action and report the issue related to gender-based violence to the respective areas. When to come to the community needed to be aware. We need to invest more awareness to the community. In the communities where we are finding there is those who are doing conducting gender-based violence, we have found that there are children, there are youth over there. So particularly what we need to do for the community is to break the silence. As one of our topic, he says that speak loud, say it loud. We need to say loud, big loud to the community. We need to take this to the level of the community, so the community can speak loudly against any form of gender-based violence that they encounter, maybe the boy or a girl child, and they can be able to speak out. And when it comes to the leaders who support local leaders, as Watesawa, we normally work with local leaders. What do? We invest in knowledge. We invest on how they can report. In Tanzania, we have gender child desk, where we provide the gender child desk provide a lot of services to the victim of gender-based violence. But sometimes you can find even the officials, police officials, they're not aware of the repercussion of gender-based violence. So we need to invest more to the local government officials, to the police officers, to the social welfare officers, on how to deal with the issue related to gender-based violence. For instance, we as Otesao, we came up with hotline number, the toll-free number, and we promoted that number to the community. We used social media, we used the radio, local radio, we used meetings, various meetings, religious meetings, to promote your hotline number. The hotline number has enabled Otesawa to receive a good number of reports of gender-based violence. For instance, in the period of pandemic, we received 87 cases of abuse that domestic workers have been encountering in the midst of working, because during the COVID-19 there was a lockdown. You find the number of the household was increased, so the domestic worker has a lot of work to do, underpaid, sometimes due to the challenge of economic for employer. You can find that she goes even 2 months without being paid. So what we did is to give them the number that they can call us, so we can provide the immediate response to the domestic workers, and to see how do we resolve their cases. And for those who have been encountering some gender-based violence, we need to provide a very intensive service, reliable service, the service that they can give them relief. Because somebody who encountered gender-based violence, as Lemi shared during the beginning of the discussion, that it's not only about the physical, it is emotional. So the service should cut across the entire gender repercussions, gender violence repercussion, like emotional. So we need to have the service of emotional, psychosocial support. We need to encourage them, like, you can take over again. You are not longer a victim. So we need to speak with survivors about their rights, and how they can stand strong to be ambassadors for others who have been encountering gender-based violence. And in the community, we have schools also. So we need to invest in the schools, so children they can understand about the repercussion of gender-based violence, so they cannot stay alone. They can speak out. Like Tanzania, we are no longer in the lockdown. Schools are open. So when we talk the level of the community, we need to invest in the schools, public schools, private schools. We normally, as civil society, we normally goes to the public schools, but we need to rethink again and see how we can intervene even to the private schools, and see how we can invest more about the right of child, but the inch of gender-based violence prevention, so we can reduce the risk and the challenge that children have been encountering during their lifetime, and when they encounter gender-based violence. Yes.
Thank you, Elisha, very much. So moving on with our program, we're going to pause and we will hear a scene from the Say It Loud radio drama, which addresses challenges faced by young people such as gender-based violence and early and unintended pregnancy in the context of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Please listen carefully.
Say it loud. Say it loud.
All right. It's all right. You take care of yourself, please. Bye. Eddie, your friend said I should greet you, and Thank you very well. Thank you for being here for us.
Now, you will make me angry, Sabai. Julius is my dear friend, and if I cannot give him money in this tough time, at least I can look after his family till he comes. That's what brothers do, is it not?
Eddie, you have been more than a brother to Julius. When he couldn't come back from the mines before lockdown, I was afraid.
Don't worry too much, Zabai. You see, everything will turn out good.
I pray so. Eddie, they will soon close the deadline for Tato's internet school. And I have not got all the money for her fees. I don't know what to do, Eddie. I caused this coronavirus. Tato! Tato, is that you?
Yes, Mama.
Please bring in those clothes from the backyard.
Look, at the time now, I need to take my medicine. God will see us through, is it not? Let us have faith.
Thank you, Eddie.
My sweet tato tomato.
Uncle Eddie, please stop.
Shh, my tattoo. Keep your voice down. See what I got you.
Stop.
Earrings in the shape of letter T. Just for you. T for tato tomato. Look at you. Wow. You look so good in this your jeans.
Uncle Eddie, please stop. Stop it.
Come now. I only want to put my hands in the back pockets. I want to just enter your jeans. Tomato tattoo. Shh, be quiet.
Stop it. I'm pregnant.
You are what? Pregnant? You lie, Tato, you lie.
It's true. Are you happy now?
Shut up your mouth. You dirty whore.
What?
Yes. Which one of these small rascals have you been opening it for?
What? You did it. You forced me, Uncle Eddie. It was you. And you will pay.
Keep your voice down, I say.
You wait till my father returns. You will see what he will do.
Shut up.
Say It Loud is made in Africa by Flint Productions for UNESCO, UNFPA, SAFES, and Save the Children Sweden in partnership with PCI Media.
Thank you for that clip. Moving on with our program, I will turn to you, Nyarazai. Welcome. And my question for you is, what are your main takeaways from the scene that we just had in the context of the issues we're discussing in today's webinar?
I can see my video was closed. Thank you so much. I am sitting in this small closed room with 8 young people in rural Zimbabwe, 100 kilometers plus out of the capital city. So imagine us being closed as lockdown, if this is lockdown, for months and months and months. So the first point that I'm getting from the video is how the lockdown measures in themselves increased vulnerability and risk for girls, the power dynamics that exist between young people and men, a reality that exists, the age-old issues that have always been raised around young people and girls being at higher risk than young men, and the issues of the response that is needed. And at times that response is not immediately available. So for me, this clip was very much telling and very much real to the reality that we live in. And it's also real to my reality with Rosaria Memorial Trust and as Eli Goodwill Ambassador, looking at the data that is around us. We have so many cases of sexual exploitation, sexual violence and abuse that has happened to young people during this lockdown period. And the schools are opening, some classes are opening, not all classes are opening. In Zimbabwe and in many other countries at this moment, we see that There are so many girls who are dropping out. They are pregnant, they are traumatized, they are married off, they don't have the social support at home, and at times they are not listened to when they raise the issues of what happened to them or what is happening to them. Much more painfully is the issue of incest. We've seen an increase during lockdown of incest. I run a shelter, and the cases that
We seem to have lost Nyara Zai in the middle of what she was saying. Hopefully she'll be able to join us. Catherine, any quick reflections in 2 minutes to this pertinent issue, particularly related to the clip that we just saw?
First of all, I must say we have so many Uncle Eddies in our community that we really need to fight. We know the ascending of COVID-19 has mounted the young people, especially young women and girls, into threatening situations regarding their sexuality, health, as we have been listening to what is happening to that young lady with Uncle Eddie. So let me focus. Let me put my focus solely on the solution. That will be as a takeaway, because I wouldn't want to have just discussing all the problems that we're having. I believe we all know, because we all experience it. So I think it is about time that we really need to maximize the protection and prevention initiatives to this group of people, which are young people. It's about time to rethink and re-strategize how best can we maximize those efforts, so as we can ensure every young people, every young girl, every young woman can harness their potential, leverage their lives, and to be free from Uncle Eddies and so much more. And another takeaway is it will be on another way to do this, to ensure that every young girl or woman is living the life that the life that she aspires, is to make them know their rights, because most of them do not. We are bounded in the social construct that we are living right now. We are like, I can live in extended families, as you know. I can live with my uncles. Uncle can touch me here. Uncle cannot touch me here. Do the young people, young girls, do they know that someone cannot just touch you somewhere? Someone cannot just have command on your body. Someone cannot just beat you or have sexual relation at your age without your consent or anything like that. So making them realize their right to be another milestone. But in relation to that, just to cement more, they need to engage young boys and men. It is very, very, very critical. Right now, you know the 1990 cascade, right? When you are trying to, now jumping back, for example, taking to 1990 cascade of HIV, you can see many more, the intervention have been fully, somehow, the percentage we have been trying to reach the 90%, but men have been left behind. You cannot see men at testing center. You cannot see young boys at testing centers. Same appears when it comes to issues of GBV. You can never see any man at the desk of gender desk. Here in Tanzania, you have gender desk at every, almost now, when you go to the police station, you have a gender desk. So when you have issues of GBV and everything, there's where you report. But you can never see even men championing, whether if a woman have been, being violated, you can never see men taking a hand like, this girl has been doing 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we are here seeking for justice. Or even men to be at the front line saying, I'm being violated by a woman or by this girl. So the importance of putting them at the center when you're trying to sensitize more on the rights and how best young girls and women can fight for their rights and fight for GBV. It's about time also to bring in their partners, so as we can be on the same boat. Because right now we are yes, okay.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much. Dr. Nyara Zai, in 30 seconds, key takeaways. I see you're back. We lost you for a second. I'll just give you half a minute to give us in bullet points, key takeaways from the clip that we just saw.
I think 3 things. 1, violence is happening and we should continue to speak out. Even if it's one case, it's one case too many. Secondly, COVID-19 has broken down the social protection system. Just like I got disconnected with internet, that's how the social protection and referral system has become so broken. And therefore, we need to continue to rebuild and reconnect, support. Thirdly, one scream is a scream too loud. We should not wait to say we have more evidence, we have more numbers. When we have a single case, it's a single case too many. It's showing us that we are in a crisis, and therefore, I strongly advocate that we should not say gender-based violence is a shadow pandemic. It is not a shadow pandemic of COVID-19. It is a twin pandemic. It's happening.
Thank you, Dr. Nyarazan.
Long-lasting.
Thank you very much. I think one important statement you mentioned, the one case is one too many. I think that's my takeaway from me. Let me come to you, Elisha and Remy. How is the scene that we listened to related to the situation in the region? I'll start with you, Elisha, and then come back to you, Remy. In 2 minutes, how is this scene that we listened to related to the situation in the region? Elisha.
Thank you. Based on the relevance of this situation to the region, let me focus on the domestic workers, reflecting on the jingle, the prayer that we've been listening. It speaks about domestic workers who have been conducting abuse and exploitation in the household, particularly during the time of pandemic. And what I can say on this is to break the silence, and we needed to take initiative as a community. And this should not be taken as individual. When it comes to the issue of gender-based violence, it needs to be taken as a community. So community must be sensitized, it need to be empowered to raise up and speak out about any kind of gender-based violence that even a girl, a boy, or a domestic worker, or anybody who is countering must be reported or access the service. Another thing is to engage. We need to engage a lot of girls as a champions to stand firm to speak about gender-based violence, because adolescent girls who will be empowered to speak out, to amplify their voice, this will be the vocal for the future women. There'll be a vocal for other young girls who have been encountering gender-based violence. So we need to stand up again and invest more to the girls, invest more to the young generation, so they can see the repercussion of gender-based violence. So in the area of prevention, we need to talk about the parenting. You know, many young people, they engage in parenting, but they are not qualified as a parents. So they can encounter that in the midst of doing gender-based violence. So what I can say is that we need to have a very intensive integration on how we can engage on parenting skills in the area of protecting our children against all form of gender-based violence, particularly when it comes on the girls, the women, or even a domestic worker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elisha. Remy, any insights on this? So if I may repeat the question, we would like to hear from you. You got the question, so please go ahead.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I think that what we heard in the clip is nothing new for our region. For me, I think the lesson is that gender-based violence often happens with people that we know. A majority of women and girls are raped by someone that they know. So these are not often strangers. Intimate partner violence, for instance, is one of the biggest forms of gender-based violence, with 100 women having to suffer intimate partner violence every day. So for me, I think that the conversation needs to really happen in the home as well. And COVID-19 has provided that opportunity. So whether it is, being able to tell that there's something that is wrong with the child, that a parent needs to give a listening ear, that we do not blame the victim, that we support, that we believe and that we help them to seek the help that they need. Often children that are abused and who feel disempowered in the home are less likely to open up about that abuse, and abusers will take advantage of it. So as parents and as community members, it is our role to create an enabling environment where we can speak openly with children, girls and young boys about some of these issues.
Thank you very much, Remy. You know, the issues that you're discussing are also very close to what happens here in Zimbabwe. Lockdown started in March, from the 30th of March until the 7th of October. We had an average of 5,306 cases reported. And this was an increase of over 60%, you know, compared to the pre-lockdown trends. And about 94% of the calls were from women, you know, through the gender-based violence hotline called Musasa here. They were from women. And in the past 3 months only, an increase in physical violence was recorded to be, you know, 55% of total cases. So these are things that happen to our brothers, to our sisters, to our cousins, to our friends, and very close, like you're saying, Remy, truly to the things that we see happening in our everyday lives. Angela, what are the resources that are available to someone dealing with gender-based violence during this pandemic? We have so many people watching through the YouTube platform and some also logged in here. Perhaps you can share some of the resources that are available that can help some people dealing with gender-based violence during the pandemic. And before you respond to your question, I'll call on our participants, both watching through the YouTube platform, as well as those tuned in through this platform, to share any questions, comments, reflections you may have. Please feel free to use the Q&A facility. Also use the chat box if that's easier for you, and we'll direct those questions to the specific speakers you want to respond to that question, and we'll also respond to your questions. But we'd really want to also just really hear your thoughts around this issue. So Angela, back to you. What are some of the resources that are available for people dealing with gender-based violence during this period? Microphone on mute.
Thank you very much, Primrose, and thanks to the panelists. I think for me, I need to reflect on the context of Uganda. For us in Uganda, government of Uganda has allocated some money within the national budget in terms of promoting prevention and elimination of gender-based violence in Uganda. And of course, it's also backed up with laws and policies that we are implementing as a country, and also programs. Alongside the resources internally within government, we also have our development partners. They've been very key and very supportive in this area. Uganda is one of the countries that are implementing the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative on ending violence against women and girls. And this particular support has really helped us, even in the context of COVID. Our sisters and brothers from civil society organizations have also mobilized additional resources, and we are also leveraging on the resources within our religious and cultural institutions, well knowing that most of the different cases of gender-based violence are deeply rooted in our social and cultural context. So private sector, where hasn't been very, very supportive, but it's also an opportunity for us to engage the private sector in terms of companies on their social responsibility, because Dbv is one of the areas that are really critical. And I know some of the companies are taking another step in terms of implementing gender equality sales, where they are committing to ensure that the working environment is really very supportive, free from violence, but also working closely with government and civil society organizations in terms of preventing gender-based violence. So I need to really add my voice to thank those partners that are really supporting us in terms of preventing and responding to gender-based violence. Over to you, Primrose.
Thank you, Angela, for that short and sweet answer. This is a general question to all of you. So please indicate by raising your hand if you would want to take this question, and then I will come to you. How can we support not just physical health and well-being for those who have been or are experiencing gender-based violence, but mental health as well? How can we hit the nail, especially in terms of mental health of victims of gender-based violence? Let me come here and see who wants to take the question. Please just unmute your mic as well and respond to that question. I don't see any hands up. And thanks to the attendees, I see you guys are also just really, bringing in a couple of questions. Okay, so I'll come to you, Dr. Nyaradai first, and then come to you, Remy, to respond to this question.
Thank you so much. I think there are a couple of things that we can do to provide mental health support. One is there are extreme cases which we definitely need to integrate within our shelter services, within our referral pathway, to increase the psychosocial support and mental health services within the full referral pathway. Secondly, we need to know that at times, mental health is also even for us who are frontline responders. Some might not even speak of their experiences. Yeah. We need to integrate mental health and well-being into the work that we do every day, so that we're able to distress, to debrief, to deal with when somebody comments on your skirt, the length of your skirt and not the content of your contribution. All those are real issues. So we need to include well-being, safety and well-being in the work that we do as frontline responders. And lastly, I love integrating arts and culture into the work that we do and working with survivors of gender-based violence. There's nothing which shakes off stress like just dancing to the drums and enjoying some good music, or for young people to be involved in sport. So we need non-traditional interventions which enable us to integrate everyday life routine, because at times we have over-workshopped life. Everything has to be a training workshop, a healing workshop. We need to really look at creativity, having skills around selection of traditional cuisine as a day out of the norm. So I would recommend that for us who work in communities, let's be creative, let's be innovative, let's look at the routine things that we do, collecting wild fruits, and just go out and enjoy. And whilst we are there, we are talking issues. So I think we need to go out of the norm, in addition to the traditional orthodoxy that we always use. But we need to advocate. We must advocate with our governments for three things. One, research. We have very little research on mental health and gender-based violence and child marriage. We can share with you the research that Rosaria Memorial Trust is doing with the University College of London. So research is important. With the research, we advocate for more resources. We need more resources into mental health and education, actual funding, but we also need professional health workers. We have very few psychiatrists, very few psychologists, very few less supported guidance and counseling, teachers who are fully supported in schools. So the whole spectrum of the human resource dimension is important, in addition to our working civil society. But also for me, it's just amazing having opportunity for the young people like we have in this room to be able to connect their own experiences with the experiences in the region. Usually people who experience gender-based violence are isolated. They are treated as a case and not treated as part of the solution. Thank you very much.
I now understand why there's doctor before the name. And I'm tempted to go off script and ask the production company to replay the jingle so that we do a little bit of traditional dancing and move away from workshopping GBV. Remy, you had your hand up in just 1 minute. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Primrose. Just wanted to say that also I think mental health has been stigmatized in our region. And only now that we are seeing a lot of interest in this space, I think that governments have an opportunity now to increase capacity building or strengthening of every individual that interfaces with a survivor of gender-based violence. At the bare minimum, they should be trained in maybe psychological first aid. If at all they're not psychologists themselves, they should be able to know how to handle from a psychological point of view and to be able to refer someone for specialized help. The second thing I also wanted to mention is that we need to really look at the policies that we have and the laws on mental health, and also make sure that these policies are up to date and they encompass the new challenges that people face in this day and age. And gender-based violence is one of them. So if you look at the pre-colonial laws on mental health that most countries are still holding on to, are those laws that advance stigma and discrimination of people that have any mental challenges. Over.
Thank you. Angela, you have something to say in just 1 minute. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm one who would want to push for indigenous knowledge. In Africa, we had quite a lot of practices that would help us relieve the stress. For instance, in Uganda, we had the around the fire talks and conversations every evening where family members will come together, talk about their issues, counsel each other, and of course, planning together. Those kind of practices are very, very important. Aspects around the way we bathe. We had the steaming. When you go, we feel tired, you go back and steam and bathe. And of course, that helps in terms of relieving the nervous system using herbs and spices. And that helps us much in terms of also promoting mediation. So I think we also need to go back to our bottom line, our culture values and practices, and pick out those important elements that help us to live as a community, but also supporting each other and also reflecting on the religious values. Because when you really feel exhausted, religion has answers for all of us. So I feel that is very, very important for us. Thank you. Over to you, Primrose.
All right, thank you very much. We are now moving into the Q&A session. We have a couple of questions, so I'll just pick one question for each of the panelists and then give you just 1 minute to respond very briefly to that question before we wrap up our session. And we'll start with you, Catherine. Here's a question for you and Remy, actually. What are the young people, what are young people's actions, efforts from local NGOs? Are you accelerating in fighting gender-based violence, which seem to increase this pandemic? So I'll just rephrase this in a more comprehensible way. So I think they're asking if there are any actions that young people are taking within your networks in addressing gender-based violence. How are young people reclaiming power from gender-based violence? We'll start with you, Remy.
Thank you so much for that question. I mean, I've come across some interventions, especially during the COVID lockdown, most of them that were looking at, being able to report and seek help even amid the lockdown. For instance, there was one on social media, where a group of young people came together and sort of had a code. You call this number and then you ask for pizza, and then the person on that side sort of understands that you are in a situation where you need help or that your partner around you is being violent. there were also some interventions, like we've heard in Uganda, where the Sautis remained open for people to be able to access and to be able to phone in and get help. In different parts of the region, we saw young people really being innovative to respond to violence. I think one last thing I want to mention, and that speaks to reclaiming power, is that, you know, when violence happens, GBV in particular, the whole idea is that the person who is perpetrating the violence want to disempower you. You know, they want you to be a victim and not, you know, a survivor. And that is why even in the language we promote and say, let us address these as survivors and not necessarily victims. And people need to be supported enough so that they can feel that they, you know, they're not at fault for whatever the violence that they experienced. Over.
Thank you, Remy. Catherine, there are so many questions for you apparently. So I will just accept Remy's response and ask you this one instead. To what extent have you worked to influence the policy on back to school for girls who had dropped out because of pregnancy, since this is a barrier to the global effort, of ensuring education for all? This is from Eric, who's tuning in from Ghana.
Okay. Sorry. Give me 1 minute. Get my audience. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, the guy from Ghana. Apparently, if you ask me at my individual or personal level on how hard or how much I've been contributing toward ensuring the policy is not valid until now. First of all, I must say, let me be very frankly open that it is very difficult for now here in Tanzania trying to go astray from the words that the Mr. President has said. So it has been a challenge, I must say, a really tough challenge to ensure that we are fighting for this. And it's not just me. We are in a coalition of so many young people organizations trying to fight over this, because we know we are fighting not only for Tanzania, but this issue of accessing to education, access of education to all, it is not the case of Tanzania. It's the global agenda. It's the SDG. So we are all fighting to ensure that we are leaving no one behind. And we are trying to build our cases. Like if girls, it's like the policy has been undermining only girls. What about boys? What about, you know, things like that. So we are still working very hard, and to our accents, like we are in the meeting with the MPs on the last, you know, now we have the new president. We just finished the election just this Wednesday. So the previous parliament, we went even to the special caucuses trying to reach out to the MPs responsible, ministries responsible, to see how best we can pull this together. But I must say, if you come and sit on the same table with these ministers or the people from the ministries, they will tell you different stories. You see, they're even themselves, they're in contradictions. Like some people are agreeing, like, okay, CSOs, you have done a very good job. We can do this. Everyone should have an access to education. But yet, if you go to another level, now trying to lobby and advocate for it, you see some other people say like, no, we cannot go against this because the president has said it. So we are trying to push this as hard as we can in coalition, because if you say at the individual level, we cannot do it, I cannot do it myself, it needs a combined effort, and we're doing it as a coalition, as networks. But I don't know, maybe we could reach there, but it is very difficult. Though Tanzania now, it has since 2015 announced that there's a free education to all young people, to all girls, to all boys. But yet we have these political issues that are going. You know, if someone has power, wake up in the morning, say, girls who are pregnant cannot go back to school. Then if he comes back again, say, I think they can go back again to school. So it's more politics, and we are trying to deal with. We know when you're dealing with politics, you cannot assure like 100% you're going to win it, because they change over time. But we are trying to push it as hard as we can, and I must say we have back of people from the ministries,
Okay.
from the parliament who
Okay,
are trying
thank
to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So what I'm getting from you is that it's work in progress being done via coalitions. Thank you very much. Dr. Nyaradzai, are there safe spaces or accommodation for those affected who may find themselves homeless after reporting such? I would really want to hear that very, rural perspective as someone who's running an NGO based in rural communities. And if you can limit your answer to just 1 minute. Thank you.
We have very limited shelters in rural areas. Our traditional institutions are broken because they used to be traditional ways of safety where you'd go to. So we really need to strengthen the shelters. We also want the government ministries for social development to be strengthened, because if we have shelters, we still need to liaise with the government. So they are very few limited. I'm excited though that in Southern Africa, we have the initiative by traditional leaders in Malawi, in Zambia, here with some chiefs like Chief Bushu, Chief Mangwende in Zimbabwe, who are working on bylaws and trying to say, let's now rebuild some of the traditional structures like Nanga in the Shona culture, I don't know what is called in other cultures, so that we rebuild positive cultural spaces which can sustain over time. So I'll be willing and available to share further information on what we are doing on that. But it's very important for us to continue to recognize that we do not have sufficient, and even those which are there, they are not fully resourced. But definitely young people, and especially girls who experience sexual violence and like child marriage, they have nowhere to go because you are reporting your father or your parents, and also the man who might be the father of your child, and the whole family might actually be ganging against you. So it's very important that we have safe spaces and shelters, both for protection, but also for mediation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Nyaradzai. Angela, I'm coming to you now, and you also just have a minute. We're talking about reporting here, and it's getting heated. The discussion is getting heated. So we have Lebogang from Botswana, who said this question goes to Angela. And the question is, as reports about sexual and gender-based violence are increasing as a result of an increase in incidences and awareness of the crimes, what actions has the Uganda government taken? I mean, you've alluded to these already, but specifically handled appropriately by the police and the justice system. Please zero in on that only, since you have already mentioned everything else.
Thank you very much. In addition to the support services, we also have Dbv Shelters, where survivors of gender-based violence are sheltered for at least 2 weeks. And of course, in that process, they are referred to the additional support services like police investigations, like representation in courts of law. And of course, there's been a deliberate effort to organize special court sessions for cases of gender-based violence. And of course, even in terms of psychosocial support. So these are some of the services we are working on. However, I also need to be open to you that the level of conviction of these cases, especially those cases capital in nature, like rape and defilement, really takes a lot of time, and the rate is still very low. Less than 10% cases are successfully concluded in time. So we still have a big challenge in this area.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Angela, for your response. Elisha, last but not least, there's also a question for you. And it's coming from Tony Nganga. What are you doing to empower the men and boys who have been with an empowered woman or girl? You know, sometimes they say they find them condescending and heavy to deal with, or independent and empowered. What are you doing to deal with these issues and to also just help men who've been profiled as macho, you know?
Thank you so much, Primrose. What we are doing as an organization, we not only just focus for girls alone. We invest also for the boys. Currently, we have school clubs where we enroll boys. Also, we inform them how to be ambassadors of for child right issues, not engage in gender-based violence. We invest on that also. Also, we have a forum. We have forum for employers of domestic workers. Normally, we engage men who coming to understand the right of girls and not to engage or to take action that can result to gender-based violence. And we engage also in a social media campaign where we normally share our ideas or our posters online that focus not only for girls but also for men. And currently in one of the region of Kagera, Ngara, where we receive a lot of domestic workers, we invested much on the parenting skills. And just in September this month, we had a training for parenting skills. We had almost like 50 men came in, join, and we inform them how to be a good parenting and how to protect the children against our gender-based violence. So we not only focus on for girls, just we empower all both parties to understand the repercussion of gender-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisha. Thank you very much. We're coming to the end of our webinar. Usually the momentum just increases when things are about to end. I'll just share with you a few reflections that are coming in from the YouTube channel, that are coming through the chat section as well. We have Joshua Kyoko, who said that so I'll leave these as food for thought. We'll not discuss them, but I'll leave them as food for thought for you guys to go away with and think about. So he's saying one of the worst disadvantages of getting involved in the process of looking for solutions to gender-based violence is victimization by the large community after speaking on matters related on. I think we alluded a lot to the issue of looking at people who report gender-based violence, not as victims, but as survivors, and integrating them into society. And there's also another comment from Daini Maria, who notes that, oh yes, this is indeed a serious impact brought about by COVID-19 and has become a serious issue. And then one young person, I think, was in the presence and listening in with Dr. Nyaradzi actually said, the way in which we take seriously the theft of a cow and reporting that to chiefs and having very prompt responses is the way in which we should act when one young girl is, either abused physically or sexually. So I'll come to you, all panelists, and start with you, Remy. In 30 seconds, what are your key takeaways and your wrap-up, comments to this whole session? TikTok.
That gender-based violence can no longer be a secret. It's not a family matter that it should be kept quiet. We need to speak out and to speak loudly. We need to link survivors to services, and we need to believe them when they tell us or confide in us. Over.
Thank you. Angela. We cannot hear you. Okay, we can now.
Young people have a role to play and a critical one. So what we need to do is to support their agency so that they can amplify their voices, they build their capacity to say no where possible, but also their capacity to report and seek support, because silence makes everything very, very challenging. And of course,
thank you, Angela.
A multi-sectoral approach is critical. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Catherine.
Thank you. For me, my takeaway will be, it is about time now that we start to engage young people as the main and key stakeholders and partners when it comes to the issues of ideation, planning, and implementation of any program or initiative. That is how best we can chip in. That is how best we can center them to the solution, because they will understand that we design everything is for them so as they can adapt them and live in them. That is including boys and men. So that is first. Second is there is a huge need apart from all young people, but specifically initiative to engage young boys and men to any initiatives when it regarding to GBV and SRHR in general. Thank you.
Dr. Nyarazai.
Thank you. I have my 30 seconds. I'm going to give them to Blessed because he really just wants to speak. Blessed, over to you.
Yeah, this is my first time ever to speak online. Yeah, but I just want to say GBV is happening every day, so we have to speak out. Let us be loud. Let's report the cases. Yeah, I'm proud of this opportunity to speak online. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
As your AU Goodwill Ambassador, I'm available. I'll continue to be supportive, and we need more young people in rural areas to have access to technology. As we had Blessed, it's his first time. He has been participating in all the UNESCO webinars, but he wants to speak, he wants to talk, and they want this opportunity. So thank you so much for
Thank you, Blessed.
Others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nyarazai. Elisha, in 30 seconds.
Thank you. Two things. We need to stop on focus so much on the response. We need to invest much in prevention, gender-based prevention. We need to close the tap of violence by investing on a prevention measure. And now it's time to go to mainstream the issue of mental health program in our organization. We need to have a policies of mental health in our organization. As we have child protection policies, we need to mainstream the issue of mental health to our schools, to have like a club of mental health to the schools, so we can have like a good community that respects human life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elisha. And thank you all for your wonderful contributions today and for the great work that you do for the well-being of young people in East and Southern Africa. On behalf of UNESCO, PCI Media, and the Let's Talk campaign regional partners, we want to thank you all for participating in the third Say It Louder webinar series. Please visit the Let's Talk campaign website at letstalkeup.com to learn more about this and initiatives taking place and how you can also take part. This session has been recorded and will be uploaded to the Young People Today and the Let's Talk campaign websites for future references. Let's all keep the conversation going and say it like Blessed rightfully said. Let's say it louder. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of our webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Primrose.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Primrose.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Primrose, for the moderation. Yeah, and panelists for the ideas shared.
Yeah.
Nyarazai.
Hey, I'm just so happy to connect with you.
I'm grateful that you love young people.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye, Nyarazai.
Bye, Catherine.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.